Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are in the world, and welcome to Pyramid's webinar on M-Payment Strategies for Operators. My name is Jennifer Baker from Pyramid Research, and I'm your moderator today. We have just a few announcements before we begin. This presentation will last about 30 minutes with some time for questions and answers at the end. As you can see at the bottom of the event console, you are able to view more information about Pyramid and our speakers. You will be able to email your colleagues an invite to the webinar as you watch it, as well as post interesting data points from the presentation to Twitter if you're so inclined. This webinar is designed to be interactive between you and the presenters. To participate in the Q&A session, just click on the Q&A button and type your question into the Q&A area, then click the Submit button. We will try to answer all questions at the end of the presentation. If we run out of time and your question is not answered during the call, the speakers will be able to reply back to you individually after the call. At the end, we will ask for your feedback, and that feedback form will be pushed to you at the very end, and you may also access it at the bottom of your screen. The slides will advance automatically throughout the event, and at this time we recommend that you disable your pop-up blockers. If you're experiencing any technical problems, please visit our help guide by clicking on the help icon below. Today's speaker will be Stella Bokun, a senior analyst with Pyramid's Strategy and Innovation Analysis team. Stella manages the production of qualitative and quantitative content and leads projects related to mobile payments and devices. This presentation today is based on a recent report that Stella has co-authored. Complementing Stella's presentation will be Osman Yatera, an Africa Middle East analyst here at Pyramid. He produces in-depth analysis, reports, mobile forecasts, and also contributes to consulting projects here. Osman focuses his research on topic areas such as mobile services, financial analysis, and operator strategies and business models. Thank you for your attention. Now I will hand it off to Stella.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, everybody. First of all, thank you very much for your attendance today. As Jen said, my name is Stella Bokun. I'm a senior analyst with Pyramid's Strategy and Innovation Analysis team. I've been with Pyramid for a little over than 6 years, and for the most part, my thematic focus were always mobile devices and mobile payments. And today's webinar, as Jen mentioned, is based on a large study that I co-authored 2 months ago. And this was a research that lasted for at least maybe 4 months, where we collected a lot of information on M-payment strategies for operators. And we published a report which is over 100 pages and presents in-depth analysis of M-payment strategies of 10 operators, in addition to the general analysis. So today I'm going to present some of the key findings of that report. Here you can see the agenda of the webinar and the scope of the webinar, as well as the short description of the report. The focus of today's webinar is going to be around operator strategies in digital content, M-commerce, and M-wallets. There are around 15 slides, and some of these I will kind of fly through so that we can focus on the best practices of the operators which we will present today, and those are going to be those of NTT DoCoMo in Japan, SK Telecom in South Korea, Turkcell in Turkey, and Safaricom in Kenya. So now before you is the first slide. The purpose of this slide is just to show how M-payments ecosystem is maturing and how it's becoming more dynamic. On the left side you can see select headlines related to the recent launches of mobile wallet. And on the right side you can see some of the arguments in favor of operators' participation in M-payments ecosystem. So they have billing relationship with customers, they own the SIM, which is particularly relevant for NFC-based payments. They are often handset distributors, again particularly relevant for digital content. They have access to customer information, very important for merchant partners within the m-commerce sphere. They have typically very well elaborated retail chains and agent networks, brand equity, and maybe most importantly, particularly for some of the new payments related services, they have often have access to large funds for long-term investment, particularly relevant for mobile wallets. Now, very briefly, I'm going to provide you with our definition of mobile payments and the rationale behind the analysis that will follow. So mobile payments are monetary payments to merchants and other vendors made from a mobile device. And as we looked at the mobile operator opportunity in this space, we decided to break down m-payments by the type of product paid for. So we looked separately into digital content, m-commerce, and then goods and services sold in physical stores. And right below the definition, you can see the table which summarizes some of the key strategies or activities that operators take in each sub-segment of the market. I'm not going to read through them because we are going to cover them on subsequent slides. Now let's get into digital content opportunity for mobile operators. As many of you may know, prior to Apple's launch of iPhone and then subsequently App Store, mobile content has generally been distributed through a mobile operator portal. That meant that operator control the value chain and they earn significant revenues from digital content. Very often they would charge 50% and more per transaction. Then Apple launches iPhone and App Store, and the business model is practically overnight completely changed, which left some of the mobile operators kind of marginalized in this ecosystem. On the right side of the slide, you can see our ranking based on the level of participation, ranking of operators, based on the level of participation in digital content market. So for instance, you can see MTS almost at the bottom. They currently don't own their own app store. They do have their mobile content portal called omelette.ru, which is relatively successful given the high level of pirated content that's available in Russia. They do not have direct carrier billing relationship with vendor-run app stores, but they do have relationships with direct billing partners such as Boku or Zong. And they do allow their subscribers to use their vehicle, MTS Easy Payment, to account to pay for digital content. So as you can see, their involvement is not as limited as Safaricom's, which my colleague may refer to later on, Osman, but it's definitely not an elaborate one. Now, on the other hand, on the other side of the spectrum, if you look at SK Telecom, they have their own application store with 400,000 applications and 19 million users as of 2012. They also own a music publishing company, and their users can pay for apps and content using many different vehicles, credit cards, phone bills. They can even use T-Store, so application store, cash or loyalty points. So quite a strong of a position in this value chain. Now, let's go into the example of NTT DoCoMo. NTT DoCoMo is the largest mobile operator in Japan. More than 60 million subscribers, are at around 45% of the mobile, controlling at around 45% of the mobile market. They recently restructured as many other operators did in order to separate their core business from the new services. They call them smart services. And these smart services are those related to finance and payment, commerce and media content. So if you look at the graph on the right side of this slide, you can see that their own NTT DoCoMo's own projection for media and content is very optimistic. So they expect to maintain their strong position in the digital content value chain. If you look at their current offering, they currently have their own portal, D-Menu. They have their own application store called D-Market, and they also own publishers. So they are at the very extreme part of that picture that we just saw previously, because they are content owners too. One important thing to point out, the reason why they were so successful and why they hold such a strong role in this ecosystem is because they haven't been offering iPhone up until September 2013. So imagine an operator which has a really high percentage of postpaid subscribers, a very decent smartphone penetration, and no iPhone. So obviously they were the ones who were providing access to digital content. Now these things may change a bit as they have introduced iPhone to their portfolio. Let's go on to the next slide. So now we presented the digital content briefly, and let's go to the second sub-segment of the mobile payments market opportunity, M-commerce. Here I can tell you that the definitions of online commerce and M-commerce vary a lot. The way that we look at it is basically online commerce refers to ordering and paying through an online or mobile channel. And if it's done via mobile, then it's M-commerce. The opportunity overall is growing really very fast. So for instance, mobile sales as a percentage of total sales on PayPal in 2012 accounted for 10%. Even more staggering statistics, if you look at the largest e-commerce site in Japan, Rakuten, they reported that 25% of their total sales for 2012 came from mobile. Which I really find to be very impressive numbers. Now look at the picture on this slide. So we again divide the opportunity into three different types of involvement, and again we rank mobile operators depending on their level of involvement in each piece of the value chain. So their involvement can be very limited. They can just offer, for instance, carrier billing. Their involvement can be more significant if they decide to launch online marketplace, online mall. That means aggregate merchants and act as a sort of intermediary between merchants on one side and the customer on the other. And finally, the most elaborate involvement is if they actually own a merchant. That's the case of NTT DoCoMo. So they are offering exclusive goods via ownership. They own a particular merchant, and what I find even more impressive is that they managed to build up a significant logistics and delivery capability, which is very particular only to NTT DoCoMo. Now, typically, talking about aggregating merchants, this is a great strategy for a mobile operator, but not too many operators actually have the capacity to organize this very complex system. So in some cases you can see operators partnering up within one country to act as merchant aggregator. That's, for instance, the case of Byster in France, which has to date signed up 23,000 merchants. And this is a partnership of all large French mobile operators. Now let's go into a more specific example. We are now going to present M-Commerce, one element of M-Commerce strategy of SK Telecom. SK Telecom is the largest mobile operator in South Korea. Around 27 million subscribers, controlling roughly 50% of the total market, and they have been really very active in M-payments market since 2002. What we will present is their online mall or the results of their strategy. They launched an online mall in early 2008. The name is 11th Street. And they basically, as I said, act as an intermediary between, on the one hand, thousands of merchants, and on the other hand, a customer. The interesting piece is that they work with merchants of all sizes. They even have some specific programs for smaller businesses to help them expand their audiences, and they support them with marketing and payment services. And the reason, the key success factor of SK Telecom's 11th Street is the fact that they were able to provide very secure environment and easy to use. So it's very easy to browse through products and very easy to pay for products. Very strong customer support service, which really are the most crucial elements if an operator wants to aggregate merchants. And that's why I said that for some operators it's too big of a bite. So they need to be able to partner with peers. Some of the results, SK Telecom claims that 11th Street is the second largest online marketplace and the largest mobile one in South Korea. So far, the app called 11th Street has been downloaded 11 million times. Now, if you look at the graph on the right side, you can see some revenue figures, so actually gross merchandise value. Please take a look at 2012. So out of total gross merchandise value of, I'll tell you in dollars, $3.5 billion, around 7% was mobile. So 234 million came from M-Commerce only. And as you can see, the M-Commerce portion is growing exponentially, which tells you about the direction in which this market is heading. Now, finally, let's go on to the third segment of the M-payments opportunity for mobile operators, and this is retail commerce space. Within this, we will focus mostly on M-Wallet. So in retail commerce space, the focus for mobile operators is mobile contactless payment using NFC technology. And I mean, I'm sure that most of you know that there is a lot of skepticism about mobile operators and wallet solutions and whether they will ever become mass market. This is mostly because many mobile operators have been piloting M-Wallet for maybe in the last 10 years. I've been listening about M-Wallet related pilots. However, there is a lot of new positive dynamics in NFC payments ecosystem. It seems like the ecosystem is maturing, and some of the key obstacles that mobile operators were facing on their way of turning M-Wallet into mass market service have been removed. So if you look at the right side of this slide, you can see some of the arguments behind this statement that the ecosystem is maturing. The biggest problem that operators faced was the fact that there were not too many NFC-enabled smartphones. And in order for NFC-enabled smartphones penetration to increase, operators needed to invest more. Now this is no longer a question. Most flagship models of handset vendors, smartphone vendors, are now NFC enabled. So it's no longer a matter of whether operator will invest more or not. the handsets are there. Also, there were issues, and there still are issues related to interoperability, which were preventing M-Wallet service from expanding. Some of these issues are resolved with increased partnership activity. So on a national level, operators partner up, and by doing so, they adopt common standards, and that issue with interoperability is partially tackled. Of course, there are still many challenges that need to be overcome, but there is a lot of positive movement that's happening on this front. Of course, while the operators have been piloting M-Wallet solutions for 10 years, there were other players which saw their opportunity in this market. So there are M-Wallet solutions or services that are offered by alternative entities. So those of Visa, those of Google, those of PayPal. I will not spend too much time on this slide because the focus of the webinar is on operator-related opportunities. But the key, I would say, dichotomy that has been created recently is whether M-Wallet is going to be NFC-based or cloud-based. So the large study that I mentioned at the beginning tackles this question in more depth, but I won't cover it here. So let's go on to the next slide, which is where we present Turkcell's M-Wallet service. Now, as I was deciding whose service or which operator I should present in this segment, obviously, again, the ones that came to my mind were, Japanese and South Koreans, which have been investing in this market for a long time and definitely have the best results. However, I decided to present Turkcell solution because it has some unique elements. Turkcell is the largest Turkish mobile operator with around 68 million subscribers in 2012, controlling around 50% of total market. And in 2011, they first launched their contactless M-Wallet service. Same year, they separately launched their prepaid card, targeting unbanked population of Turkey. Then in 2012, they integrated both into one platform, and then in 2013, they added a bus transit card into the Turkcell wallet. What's the most interesting piece is that sometimes at around the end of 2012, they realized that it's not going well for them, that they are registering very low usage, and they decided to completely change their M-Wallet strategy and to create a new service that's based on the insights that they receive from their customers. So currently, they are offering a mobile wallet which incorporates many different elements. So they offer within their wallet online payments with merchants, contactless payments, most importantly probably very simple payments. One can pay with entering just a phone number. So this is their value proposition which they insist on very much. They offer utility bill payments, and then of course person-to-person transfers and coupon and discount offers. They have their own in-house technology which originates in their previous service called SIM Signature, which they were offering to the government. And then they decided to advance that service and they own the technology and act as their own trusted service manager. For many of you, this may be a new concept. This is an entity that is an intermediary between an operator on one side and the bank on the other side. So normally it's a completely separate entity. In case of Turkcell, Turkcell owns this part of the business too, which is relatively unique to them. So first results after the change of strategy are relatively positive. In May 2013, I talked to them in June. As of May 2013, they had 1.4 million users of their new M-Wallet. Around 500,000 had linked at least one card to the SIM, and they said that they expect to attract 2 million users by the end of this year. On the merchant side, they signed up partnerships with 50 largest online merchants, and when we talked, they said that they were in the final stage of negotiations with one large gas station chain and one large supermarket chain. So we have now covered all three sub-segments of the M-payments market, and we analyze different ways in which operators can participate in these sub-segments. The slide that you see right now before you, I think, is the most important and most interesting slide in the entire presentation, and I hope this got your attention up. This slide compares M-payment revenue of particular operators against total service revenue. So if you look at the operators that we compared, on the one hand, there are NTT DoCoMo and Safaricom, NTT DoCoMo and SK Telecom, which offer services in developed markets, and Safaricom and Vodacom, which offer services for unbanked population. If you look at the Safaricom line, for instance, within 2 years, 10% of after they launched their service, 10% of the service accounted for 10% of the revenue. My colleague Osman Yatera is going to elaborate more on the Safaricom case. I can tell you about Vodacom Tanzania that within 4 years or 3.5 years after they launched their M-Money service, it accounted for 14% of the total mobile revenue for the operator. So the revenue potential for related to those services that are for the unbanked population, so M-Money, is immediate and very large. Whereas if you look at NTT DoCoMo and SK Telecom, which have been investing into M-payments opportunity for years, we are talking about a 10-year horizon or maybe even more. In case of NTT DoCoMo, in 2012, it was at around 9.3% of total mobile revenue that M-payment services accounted for, but they started investing in 2002. When it comes to SK Telecom, it was at around, the revenue from their HANA SK card was at around 1% of total revenue, and they first invested in it in 2009. So the key takeaway of this slide, and probably of the entire report and webinar, is that the revenue potential of services, M-Money services for the unbanked, is immediate and large, and those services, M-payment services that are targeting a population in developed markets, these really don't have immediate impact on operators' revenue. And operators really need to brace themselves for a long period of investment and service upgrade, service innovation in order to be able to see some returns. Now, I will pass it on to my colleagues. There is one more slide which distinguishes the M-payment offerings for banked and unbanked customers as a continuation of the previous slide, where we give you some additional statistics, but in the interest of time, let's go straight into the Safaricom case.
Okay, hello everybody. Thank you, Stella. So as Jennifer said, I'm Usman Yatera, analyst at Pyramid Research covering the Africa and Middle East region. So let's start. First of all, I'm going to give you some information about Safaricom and M-Pesa. So Safaricom is the largest operator with 19.4 million customers, generating $1.5 billion revenue in the year to March 2013. In 2007, the company launched its mobile payment services called M-Pesa, which is often considered as the most successful M-Money services in Africa. So today, the service is used by 88% of Safaricom customers, generating $258 million in the year to March 2013. So M-Pesa is offering, a large range of services, including domestic and international money transfers, airtime top-up, cash-in, cash-out from agents or ATM, bill payments, salary payments, M-ticketing, school fees payments, and purchase goods in retail stores. But Safaricom has also extended its value proposition with two financial services linked to M-Pesa. So the first one is called M-Kesho, launched in partnership with Equity Bank, offering M-Pesa users microcredit, micro-insurance, and micro-savings through an official bank account. So basically, to benefit from this service, the customers have to open an Equity Bank account. And in 2012, Safaricom launched a second banking service called M-Shwari, in partnership this time with Commercial Bank of Africa, and it offers micro-savings and micro-credit. So here, the idea is to offer banking services with no form to complete and no need to visit a bank branch. So now, if you look at the graph, you can notice that M-Pesa revenue has even exceeded that from SMS. For instance, in March 2013, 19% of total revenue came from M-Pesa, whereas 9% came from SMS, meaning that M-Pesa is key service for Safaricom. And obviously, we expect that M-Pesa revenue contribution will keep growing over the years. This great success can actually be explained with the fact that M-Pesa benefits from an agreement with the central bank to easily comply with financial regulation first, but also the company leveraged the high proportion of unbanked population, in Kenya. So in 2007, only about 30% of households had a bank account. And 2007 is the M-Pesa service rollout, the year of the M-Pesa service rollout. And finally, the company has implemented a powerful agent distribution network across the country. So in the next slide, we are going to see if new opportunities can be leveraged to get additional revenue streams. So the graph describes the possible vertical synergies between M-Money services and other areas. So regarding Safaricom, we have seen that the company currently leverage education, entertainment, commerce, banking and insurance opportunities through the different services I presented before. However, we think that vertical synergies are not fully exploited so far. For instance, regarding the agriculture sector, Orange Uganda has been targeting the farmers as potential customers with Orange Money. They actually give them a convenient way to buy farming supplies and also get paid for their crops with the Orange Money service. Also, M-Money service can be coupled with the health sector. So for instance, M-Money services can be used to buy medical supplies and pay for the medical services. So there are a lot of opportunities for mobile money providers to innovate and offer more sophisticated services. We expect that M-Pesa will further develop synergies, especially with the mobile phone development services, including M-Agriculture, M-Health, and M-Education.
Thank you very much, Osman. And now we are coming to the close of our presentation. I will present some key takeaways. As you can see on the last slide, we listed 6-7 of the key takeaways. However, the large study that we conducted lists many more of those. And I selected these because I think they are the most relevant for the topics that we have presented. However, I'm not going to read through all of them. I'm just going to leave you with 2 key messages. One is that for mobile operators, M-Payments opportunity is not only about M-Wallet. There is a case for mobile operator to organize a complex M-payment strategy and assume strong position in digital content, in M-commerce, and yes, in M-Wallet too. The second message is something that I mentioned at the previous slide that I presented, and that is that there is a very big fundamental difference in the revenue opportunity associated with M-money services for the unbanked and mobile payment services aimed for the developed market customer. That means that in the first case, an operator, after a relatively small investment, can expect immediate and large yield. Whereas in the second case, the operator really needs to be patient, and not only patient, but to have access to significant funds to be able to push these new services such as M-Wallet and related M-payment services onto the customer. The business model here is not as clear as it is in the case of M-Money, simply because customer in the developed market already have a very well functioning payment mechanism. So M-Wallet service is best for those operators that have large subscriber base and access to significant funds to plan for long-term investment into this service. And with this, I will close the presentation portion of this webinar. Jen, over to you.
Thank you to my colleagues for their insight on this topic, and thank you all for participating and listening, and to those who have actually submitted questions already. For the rest of you, as a reminder, to participate in the Q&A, just type your question into the text box located below on the screen, then click the Submit Question button. You can also fill out the feedback form that will open on your computer. You can also click on the feedback form icon at the bottom of your screen, and your participation in the survey will allow us to better serve you, so thank you for your input. And now I will hand it over back to Stella to address some questions.
Sure, thanks, Jen. I'm looking through the questions. Many of them are whether the presentation, the slide deck is going to be available. Yes, it will be available to you after the webinar. Let me try to find some that are more substantial. So, for instance, one of them, what's the business model associated with the operator-run M-Wallet? So I guess that's how they earn their revenue from M-Wallet. So what they can do is they can charge card issuers rental fee for managing the application within the SIM. So that's one way. They can, of course, charge a commission for transactions on their own payment service. They can also charge for each new account that its banking partner generates in relation to their payment service. So some examples that come to mind, we were covering Turkcell previously, so let me give you some numbers there. For instance, Turkcell charges around 40 euro cents for utility payments, and then takes 10% of the value of coupons and vouchers that were redeemed. And then Turkcell also, as I said, has this very unique role of trusted service manager. So they charge banks and other card issuers for installing and managing their applications within the SIM on both per application and per user basis. So that's just one example that comes to mind. Osman, I think this one is better for you. How do you expect M-Money services to evolve in Africa in the next 5 years?
Thank you, Stella. So actually, it's a good question. I think we can identify two main evolutions in Africa. The first one will be, about the synergies with the different sectors, as I mentioned during my presentation. So in Africa, especially in the sub-Saharan countries, the markets are very competitive in the mobile money space, and so as a result, the operators have to innovate. The second key evolution will probably be about the interoperability. That's actually a topic which is more and more important in Africa because so far the different operators have built a kind of secure garden. But however, I think that the regulator will force the MNOs to open their services to add more value to the customers. So we think that operators should start thinking about new business model before it happens, actually.
Okay, thanks, Osman. Let me see this one. Do you guys see standardization among NFC? I hear there are all different types and formats of NFC, and some might work with one phones and not others. So first of all, there are 3 different ways in which mobile handset can be configured with NFC. The one that's currently prevalent is the single wire protocol. So the handset is configured in such a way that NFC chip is linked directly to the SIM in the handset, and then the secure element, this is where the secure element, which is where all the important confidential data and application is stored, this is basically in the SIM. This is the operator which is relevant to operator, this is the model relevant to operator run M-wallets. Then there is an option where a secure element can be located in a chip that's integrated in the handset. So in this case, in a way, operator, if this model is the one that becomes mass market, then the operator is somewhat left out. So let's just take an example of Samsung and Visa. So Samsung is working with Visa to enable mobile payments on devices in such a way that banks can download payment account information to the chip, and then Samsung preloads the secure element with the Visa application. And they said that the partnership between Visa and Samsung, they said that they will ship 100 million such devices during 2013. And then the third one is the so-called device add-on. So you can add secure element to a device through an external add-on. So it's typically micro SD card, and that can be inserted into the majority of the smartphones. This is typically the configuration that's preferred by banks. So they can, distribute the cards directly to their client base and avoid having to work with either operators or handset vendors. So which one is going to be the most prevalent? It's $1 million question. I am not sure right now. In volume terms, we believe that the first configuration is the largest, since there are already several large launches across different markets. We are yet to see whether the operators are going to speed up their launches, commercial launches, and be able to make the service mass market, or the mass market M-wallet solution is going to come from elsewhere. Osman, I think there is another one for you. So it says, what is the main source of revenue within M-Money service?
Okay, in the specific the region? Or?
No, I think probably they're referring to, Africa or
Okay.
others. I'm not sure.
So in Africa, actually it depends on the operator, but most of the time the main source of revenues come from e-money transactions. So the operators get commission in each transaction. Airtime top-up is also generates a lot of revenue, but it's not the main one. I can also say that it's important that operators can benefit from churn reduction actually when they launch an M-Money service. There are a lot of different studies that show that e-money customers have the lowest churn rate among the mobile users. So when an operator launched a mobile money service, it will create more customer stickiness, basically. So it will reduce the churn, which is very important in Africa.
Mm-hmm. And it's important elsewhere too. Just a side note, we did not focus much on the implications that M-payment services have on churn and loyalty for operators, simply because it was in the interest of time to focus on particular solutions and revenue potential. But the report that we prepared has a separate churn analysis too, and indeed M-payment services are definitely important for increasing loyalty of customers. Let's take one more question. How do merchants, banks, and payment entities benefit from M-payments? I guess we were mostly focusing on the benefit that mobile operators have. The banks can see increased account penetration in some cases, better customer engagement, or lower costs. With merchants, as we mentioned, I think on one of the slides, they can see better advertising and marketing in those cases where operator is supporting them with this. They can have a lower cash handling cost, higher conversion rates. And then what was the third one was payment networks. Similar to the banks, increased account penetration, increased use of cash, those would be the three. I think now we are approaching to the end of the webinar. Maybe we can take one more question. Can you elaborate on the role of trusted service manager in the NFC ecosystem? I think I mentioned before, it's typically the entity that stands in between the owner of the secure element. So in this presentation, the owner was the operator, and then the card issuer, which is typically a bank. So they are an independent intermediary, and they can actually set up and control many accounts from many different service providers and across many carriers and payment networks. So their role is in installing and provisioning and managing NFC applications in the secure element, and they have to have typically very high security credentials. In some cases, as you've seen, the operator assumes this role, like in the case of Turkcell or the case of SK Telecom. I think we can now close the Q&A. Thank you very much for your attendance, and Jennifer, over to you.
Okay, thank you. As Stella said, we have reached the end of our session today. Any questions that have not been answered will be collected by us, and our speakers will reach out to you via email. All attendees will receive an email with the on-demand version as soon as it's available, and as Stella mentioned, we'll also be sending the slides to you. And we do hope that you have some time to read more about our report on this topic, which offers 100+ pages of in-depth analysis on operator strategies on mobile payments around the world. For more information, please visit pyramidresearch.com, and thank you again for attending today's webinar.